So hello and welcome to CircleCI's Open Circle Sessions. My name is Katie and I am the Technical Community Manager here at CircleCI. Open Circle Sessions enable CircleCI community members to interact directly with our teams here, the employees, to discuss all things CircleCI. It's an opportunity for the community to learn about like the latest and greatest in the CircleCI universe. And it also serves as a continuous feedback loop for us so that we know what's going on with the community and CircleCI. So now I want to hand it over to Angel to introduce himself and our guest.
Hello, everybody. My name is Angel Rivera. For those of you that don't know me, I'm a developer advocate for CircleCI. And I want to take a moment here to actually give Katie a proper welcome and introduction. She just recently joined our team here, developer relations team at CircleCI. And this is her first time, I guess, right, at the Open Circle session.
This is my first Open Circle session.
Yeah, I want to welcome you and welcome you to the team, welcome you to the community, welcome you to the world of continuous integration, continuous delivery. Yeah.
Yes.
So thank you for helping out. Normally our coworker Jeremy is in control and
I'm the new sheriff of these circles.
That's right. I'm so happy you're here, and we're gonna have some fun today. So I want to welcome everyone to the broadcast. I also want to introduce our guest today, who's taken time out of his busy schedule to join us in conversation today about a topic that I really enjoy, and I'm sure most of you who are watching enjoy as well. So without further ado, I want to introduce Ron. But before I do that, I forgot to say, Katie, since you are new, you need to also give us a fun fact about yourself.
Oh my goodness, a fun fact? I'm too fun. That's the problem that I have.
So much fun.
Okay. Let me pick one. Too fun. I worked briefly and reluctantly as a carnival clown when I was a teenager. I wasn't very good at it, and children cried a lot.
Wow. I don't know what to say to that. But yeah. Okay. So thanks for that.
Fun.
Awesome. So yeah, let me get back to our guest. So honestly, Ron, I don't know your current title, but you can fill folks in on that real quick. Your new title, I know your old title. Anyway, so this is a man who joined CircleCI shortly after I did. And when I joined, a little bit of backstory about Ron, the content team was very small and very busy, overloaded. But when Ron came, he embraced that, that task and really took the content program. And I actually worked with him as far as a contributor, right? And he managed to like really put a lot of energy and focus into it and get it to where it is today, which is in a really good state. CircleCI was much smaller when we joined. So, when you join a new startup, there's just so much going on. Everyone's wearing multiple hats. But I want to say that I'm super proud of what Ron has done in just short time that we've been at CircleCI and the accomplishments he's made. So go ahead, Ron. I want to introduce Ron Powell and take it away, Ron, and remember your fun fact.
Yeah, no worries. I also suffer from being too fun, so I had to whittle my list down to just one. But I'm Ron. I'm the technical content marketing manager at CircleCI, and so the technical content, like what we kind of like high level think of in that is that I touch all content that has code in it. And so I'm not just a matter of producing that content, but a lot of editing and publishing that content, whether it be from external sources, internal sources, or whether it be for the blog, for web landing pages, or for anything else. If it has code samples, then I at least do a review at some point. My fun fact is that if I love spreadsheets. If I was to get a tattoo of one piece of software on my body, it would be Excel. I love it that much. I have many spreadsheets in my life, and probably the most obnoxious one is I have about 800 days of everything that I've had to eat for dinner, because pivot tables on that data set are amazing.
I'm in shock. That's the reason no one can hear the expression that's on my face, but I've never heard anyone say that, and that does make it fun.
That is fun. That is fun. But what we want to talk about today is content, and content at not just content at CircleCI and the program that we've been able to join here, but like just thoughts and ideas about technical content in general. A little bit of like my philosophy for how we create content, what our goals for content are, what content is successful, and how we utilize content as a startup, where that kind of fits in, because I think that there's a lot of overlap between that and a lot of other organizations that either have technical or guest writer programs or to create technical content, or they are guest writers themselves. And so I think that this would be a great opportunity for me to really share out some of the things that I've learned in helping to create this program at CircleCI and manage it, as well as kind of like what I think the future of technical content looks like.
Oh, yeah. So Ron, you and I spent a lot of time together in regards to content, right? I try to write as content as frequently as possible, but you know how that goes with being on the road and now doing live events or whatever online. But I know that, like I said, you've taken the program to another level just from myself being here and watching you, embrace it and do all those amazing things. And actually, you've also started some initiatives, but the fact that I write tons of content, not tons, but I should be writing more, but I write content, I contribute, and I'm dealing with you, in general. I always wonder, like, what's the most, or what's your thoughts on like what makes good content, right? Especially in our space, which is very technical, and could be, really hard to grasp in the beginning. So what are your thoughts on like, what's good content in general? What are kind of some of the core things that you look for?
Sure. So there's a difference between what makes content successful and what is good content. Because I think to answer what is good content, and I'll borrow this phrase from Katie, good content is accessible. And that's really one of the goals that we try to do through, the guest writer program at CircleCI and just creating technical content for CircleCI in general, is that like I can't really make a lot of assumptions about the technology that people are familiar with, what types of stacks that they've seen or worked on, or what type of background that they come from when they land on our content. And so, I'd say really close to accessibility is consumability. I can't assume that everyone needs an introduction to everything that we're going to do in a particular post, because my post would then be 50 pages long and no one is going to consume all of that. And so there's a back and forth between being able to describe what it is that would be needed to be able to move through the content, address the fact that not everyone is going to bring the same knowledge base to a piece of content before they consume it, and still be able to make it something that's consumable. And so oftentimes what we do is like, all technical content has a list of prerequisites to, go through a tutorial. That's a pretty much a standard for doing that. And then it also gives you the capacity to link to content that would be supplemental. And that really does give you a chance to create content that's short and consumable while still having the depth needed to, bring anyone up to speed that wouldn't have that information coming into it. And so, like I said, the first thing I think is accessibility. If I try to write to too small of an audience, then I'm not serving the broadest amount of the community. And so thinking as broadly as I possibly can about how to create content that more and more people would find accessible to them. I think, you know, balancing that, and then I also can't have every single post be an introduction to continuous integration. And so finding that line between how to like walk that is probably one of the biggest challenges. And I think that we've been pretty successful at being able to create some content that does have, you know, it does start at an introductory level. It's not super long. It's not verbose. I'm not trying to describe philosophy or any of those types of things. I like to think that we are creating a lot of content that solves problems. People Google search their problems and our content comes up as possible solutions. And so what I like to try and do is highlight the technical effort of the authors that we have, because oftentimes, you know, these are folks that have done this enough times that they know the fastest route. They know the route that is that they use when they go through these processes themselves in their own projects and such. And so being able to find a way to really highlight the technical expertise of the authors in a way that's consumable by the largest number of people is always my goal, and is one of the things I think that defines success for technical content.
Yeah,
Which is easy stuff, right?
It's not, I mean, you would think that it'd be code review or, you know, like, you know, grammar or anything like that. And it's like, it's not that, it's the soft skill type of thing. You know, of course it is important to make sure that it's, you know, grammatically accurate, that the code works. And, you know, we put a lot of effort into those things as well. But I mean, I like to say that, you know, you get, you know, if you can grab someone's attention with your title, you have about 10 seconds to convince them to read the first few paragraphs. And in the first few paragraphs, you have to convince them to spend another couple of minutes reading the rest of your content. And if you can get through that, oftentimes you're bookmarked. And that's like the gold standard. Someone bookmarks your post, then you know that they're going to come back and copy paste some code snippet, or they're going to come back to review it, one of those things. But people have very short attention spans. I mean, websites are optimized in order of milliseconds, and people will bounce real quickly. And so it is not just a matter of trying to get content in front of people. It has to be content that delivers in a way that's consumable so that they stay there. I mean, much of our content is discoverable only through Google search. We don't do a lot of promotion for our content. I know that this is incredibly common for startups of our size, and especially for startups that are even smaller. There's not a lot of money on the marketing team for brand spend. And so one of the ways that you get your brand out there is through creating technical content. And the reason that you create technical content is because you can optimize keywords and titles so that your content becomes discoverable. I mean, almost, it's not 100%, but like 75% of our page views come from Google Organic, which is tremendous. That means that we are actually creating content that solves problems that people regularly are looking for on the internet, and that they're choosing our blog post, our content, as the solution that they're utilizing. And so being able to take advantage of all of that, it's a lot of work, a lot of effort.
Yeah, I mean, you know, one of the things that, at least from my point of view as an author, a contributor of that content, you know, as a developer advocate, I go out to community, I speak to a ton of people, developers, right? And I do have, with that experience, I do have some insights into kind of what's hot, what's not at the moment, right? And when you have that perspective, a lot of times, you know, I'll sit down and I owe you a couple blog posts, right? And in general, when I start let's say the quarter, right? Like, oh, when I'm trying to put together what I'm going to do for a quarter, I have a completely different topic in mind, you know, that we discuss, and you're like, yeah, that sounds great. Let's do it. And it's hot at the moment, but, you know, fast forward 2 weeks, and me being in the field, communicating with developers, I completely flip that, because it's like, wait a minute, that can, you know, that topic that we discussed previously will be hot, or at least it's not as hot as what I need to actually, focus in on, which is that real time telemetry or feedback that I'm getting from the developer community. So it's interesting, when I first started out, I was thinking about writing like, yeah, I'll just do a more intermediate advanced type posts. And I think that was more like gratifying to my ego, like, wow, you can do all these cool things, right? But at the end of the day, after having communicated with the community, there are more people who are in that kind of, I don't want to say beginner, but maybe beginner intermediate like arena, right? So we all start somewhere, right? We're especially with technology, we have to learn, work our way up to things, and that's why lately, I try to mix, blend a little bit of a couple different what's that word? Anyway, a couple different disciplines, right? Within the DevOps space. So my point is, we create, one of the things I like about our content is we are creating content that's actually like a foundation for folks who are starting out with CI/CD, DevOps, some of that, like we talked about, soft skills, managing people, managing processes. And I think that, in the future, we're going to have even more things to kind of build upon, right? So we have that foundation, which is one thing that I spend a lot of time, you and I spend a lot of time talking about, like, is this too, I don't say too beginnery, right? Is this too 101? And I think we've always answered, I haven't ever heard the answer yet that no, right? Like, this is actually good content to build on. So can we talk about like some of the ways that you choose content to publish? Like, I think that would be a cool kind of insight.
Sure. I mean, with accessibility, to reach the widest audience, beginner content, there's going to be more people who are interested in finding beginner content than there are experts that are looking for, advanced solutions to very specific problems. And so, like, I like to think that we can create a range of solutions for all of those audiences. But the reality is that if success is through page views, the more basic the content, the more likely you're going to be able to create something foundational, and that post is going to be something that is a success for a long period of time. And like, Angel has a post that he's published a couple of years ago that's like getting started with CI/CD pipelines and Docker. So that has CI/CD in the title, it has pipelines in the title, it has getting started, and it has Docker. Like, you couldn't really create a better keyword combination for a title and have it be discoverable. So many people are like, how do I get started with continuous integration in Docker? And that is the solution that they find there. And then, shortly, or, right behind that, as far as like number of page views since published, Stanley, who's on the call, I see as well, he has getting started with continuous integration in GitHub. And it's like, continuous integration, GitHub, get started. Like, those are keywords that are going to be widely searched. And it does take more effort to kind of get Google to rank you up high on those, because people are also trying to take advantage of the high volume for those keywords. But once you do, if you can get ranked pretty high on them, and I believe that both of the pieces that I'm talking about are front page Google results, if you search those sets of keywords. And so that, like, the volume for those keywords are in the tens of thousands per month. And so if we can pull a few percent of that month over month, that's a tremendous amount of value that we get to that we can bring to CircleCI. So the
Ron,
introductory stuff. Go ahead.
I'm gonna interrupt you, because you just threw a lot of numbers at us, right?
Okay.
So, but what I want to know is what turns Ron on when he's reading content, right? Like, what what's going on in that head of yours, right? So you're kind of the gatekeeper. So,
Sure.
And I'm just like, I just want to know what, like, and by the way, I'm doing this so that
He just told us his favorite thing was spreadsheets. I think the numbers are
That's probably
I know this man. There's more to it than the numbers, and I want to know, like, top 3 things, maybe, and this is more for folks who maybe want to join the program, because we can throw numbers and Google searches all day, but yeah, at the end of the day, that's right. Like, I want to know what makes you tick, Ron.
I mean, the most interesting things to me are folks that have insight into the newest stuff that's going on. I mean, it's like not every new framework is going to be a big win, but there's so much that goes on in that space that like it's really it's great to be exposed to those things. It's great to be learning those things, and what it does is it provides CircleCI the opportunity to kind of be in the front as far as like finding solutions for developers on those frameworks, and like it just, I mean, I don't know what the process is for like learning every new framework, but I feel like I have a real gift in the guest writer program in that the diversity just in the program creates opportunities for me to be exposed to frameworks that I probably wouldn't have found on my own, because it's like, I know recently we've been doing a lot of content, towards APIs, and it's like APIs never really was like my thing, and so like I'm not super familiar with the frameworks and languages for building APIs, and so like getting exposed to those types of things, I mean, that's definitely like what would be the most exciting thing for me to publish is like anything. I mean, I just got a couple of pieces from Fikio, who is also on the call as well, and Svelte. And I know that Svelte is kind of like still early, but I know that there's some bigger projects that are currently moving over to Svelte. And so like, that we could write content that could be helping people that are like on that, that front edge of learning the newest technologies, and see these things mature over time, feels really exciting to me. I mean, even if, I know Fikio also wrote a post on progressive web apps, and that's definitely not a 2020 topic. But I mean, at the same time, it's done really well. So I'm not disappointed in that. It's done really well.
Yeah, and one interesting thing for me is that like new frameworks and stuff often don't succeed because of lack of resources, right?
That's actually really good point. Yeah.
So like if I try to learn something and there's no learning resources, at least me personally, I'm more likely to be like, you know what? Seems like no one else is using it. So it's going to be really hard for me. So the idea that we're sort of like giving those projects a chance, I think will like, maybe could help them see a better life,
Yeah, and I mean, I think that with our content, we solve like, our goal is to solve like a real tangible problem.
Mm-hmm.
And so, a lot of what I try to focus on is, establishing a problem, and like maybe the problem is like setting up continuous testing or automated testing or what have you. So like, some of the ways that we use assumptions for the consumption, of our content is that like, test-driven design is a best practice. Like I don't need to convince people to write tests, right? Like that's a part of it that's already established.
Well, I disagree. There's a lot of developers that need to write some tests, but
I understand that. But it's like at least
ahead.
the first time they hear test-driven design isn't in a blog post from CircleCI. So my assumption is that they know this, and so when they want to do that level of automation, when they want to start getting that a little bit more mature and automating this testing process, like that's a solution that nearly everyone gets to, like a problem that nearly everyone gets to. And so our solution walks through how to set that up, and it just by chance uses CircleCI as the tool that does that automation. But at a high level, you could kind of abstract this solution to whatever tool it was that you were using. And through that, we create content that is more generalized. Yeah, so that we can reach a larger audience, and then we just brand ourselves by, going, you could do something very similar to this with any of the other tools, but here's an example, shown using our tool. And I think that our content has more impact because we do that, because we're not just adding the piece of content. The PWA thing isn't for CircleCI users to go out and write new progressive web apps. The PWA thing is because there are people writing progressive web apps that aren't doing automated testing. And so the solution isn't for CircleCI users. The solution is for engineers that are developing progressive web apps, as an example.
The platform, right? So one of the things that, you know, I think is really cool about the company and the platform and all the things that we do is we're in a really unique situation, right? So if you think about what the company and the product is doing, we sit in the middle of a lot of things, right? And we see people doing a lot of cool things with these technologies, whether they be old COBOL, Perl, whatever, all the way up through to the, you know, the newest hotness, right? With Svelte or whatever you said earlier. So like, you know, our content needs to, like you were saying, right? You're kind of the phrasing you put it was like, you know, I look for kind of the emerging technologies and seeing what's going on. That's one kind of like bullet or point to that the one core thing that you look for. But we're in a unique position because again, we touch on a lot of different things, right? We're not only just dealing with code. We're not only dealing with testing. We're not only dealing with, you know, Git commits and stuff like that. We are also dealing with orchestrating people's and automating people's actual processes, right? So I gave a talk yesterday about security and how you can enable your pipelines, right, to perform some of the security functions that used to be, right, done by some team at the end of a software release process, right? So we're touching on a lot of things. We're also, you know, in the continuous delivery deployment space as well. Whereas, you know, we're touching on things that maybe developers are not familiar with, which I know for a fact they're not familiar with at this time, right? So like there is a lot going on with our content, and the fact that, you know, we have a really, I want to say, I like to say a successful track on the content and how it's going, and I think we're going in the right direction. But there's only so many people in the company, right, that can produce this stuff, which is my segue into why, you know, we talked about a program. And one of the things that Ron did here, for those of you that don't know, at CircleCI is constituted, we recognize the need, right? Like, wow, there's only so many engineers that are capable or not capable, yeah, we'll have the time to find, because we have a ton of talented engineers, but they're busy. And, you know, we want to provide content as a DevRel team, as a community team, as a company, right, to actually help people understand these new technologies and how they can integrate it, right? We have what do you say? I don't want to say selfish, but we do have some. Anyway,
We all benefit.
It's in our best
Angel.
interest. There you go. It's in our best interest, right, to address these technologies, these stacks, and how people can integrate them into their development life cycles, software development life cycles. So again, we didn't have enough engineers and folks internally to help out. We're growing our team, but again, when we started, right, it was less than half of what we have today at CircleCI. So Ron started the Guest Writer Program. So let's talk about that, Ron, the program that you kind of came up with and have been driving. I still don't fully understand it completely, all the intricacies, but I do have a good understanding of foundational knowledge. But could you talk about some of that?
Sure. Well, I mean, just like historically, you know, this was set up to solve the problem of, you know, we would like to be producing a lot more content than we have time for internal folks to be creating, as well as wanting to create an opportunity for the community to bring in solutions that, you know, are the things that they do at work every day. And, you know, the Guest Writer Program does consist of folks that kind of like, you know, give us an opportunity to speak to both of those things. You know, right now, the Guest Writer Program, I mean, I think it hovers around 40 people. At any given time, there's about a dozen or less of them that are active. I do go through and kind of rotate through the folks that are no longer inactive, but you know, I have targets of number of posts that I'm trying to get, you know, every 3 months per quarter. And so I like to try and keep enough folks in the program to make sure that I can hit all of those targets. I've been, before when it first started, there was, I mean, so little content that we were generating from the program that I did all of the code reviews and edits.
I remember that.
Right. That lasted up to the point in which that became like my full-time job. And so I needed
a lot of work.
It is a lot of work. I mean, at the same time, through, adding new folks and having other folks leave the program, I've had more folks join the program that are capable of writing at a higher velocity. And so I didn't want to be the bottleneck for them to be able to create, work and get it published. And so, in order to scale the program, I had to do a number of things. This working with Stanley, who's done a tremendous amount of work in helping me, get the program to a place where it can scale. I mean, just to like when I first started, I think it's like my goal was like 4 posts in 3 months. And like this current quarter, it's like 15 posts in 3 months. And so I do 5 posts a month, which is is a massive amount of growth, especially because it takes a lot of touching individual people to be able to push all of that content through the pipeline. And Stanley has helped me do a lot of that by taking on some structural review and some code review and helping us migrate the program to GitHub, which another bottleneck that I had was getting it published onto the CircleCI site. And so now that it lives in a repo, I mean, it's incredibly easy to build that repo on my local machine. I can build circleci.com on my local machine, a couple of copy commands in my terminal, and poof, the post appears just as it does, just as the author sees it when it's in their repo, just as it's been reviewed. And that has given us the opportunity to really like build this up to a program that I think, ideally we would, 15 is not enough. I mean, like, is 25 enough? 25 might be getting close to there, but like, a couple of pieces of content dropping every week, throughout a quarter would be ideal. And there's no possible way I would be able to do that if I was single-handedly doing all of the code reviews and all the structural edits and doing all the production work as well.
I'd like to tease that out a little bit because I was involved a little bit in that, where we would have conversations, and I remember you having a little bit of anxiety about it because, yeah, you wanted to increase the volume of the products, of the content being produced. And it's amazing, right? Like, we were sitting there and you're describing your problem to me. And I'm like, well, remember if we were going back with and the reason why I'm bringing this up is for folks who are like, maybe going to watch this later and, thinking about they're starting from ground zero like you did. One of the problems that we had was we could not give these folks who were external contributors access to a private repo that basically is very important to the company.
Right.
Yeah.
So we had to bridge, right? And by the way, people were turning in, I believe, content to you in Google Docs or Word Docs or whatever, a format that we don't really, want. And they weren't happy
with that.
Yeah, and they weren't happy with it either because they're used to writing, they're developers, they're used to writing their stuff in Markdown, right? So, when you told me this problem, I said, well, wait a minute, just make another repo, external, and have your external. That way you kind of keep those lines of separations, between the two, and you can operate a little bit more freely with the public, right? Without having to, put anything company related at risk.
Sure. Yeah,
so
absolutely.
That was just that one change, that you made, I know has given you a ton of time back, right?
Absolutely.
And it's those simple things that help.
Fikio writes posts with like 25 screenshots in it. It's like trying to pull all of those screenshots out of a Google Doc and then upload them.
I've done that. It hurts. It hurts.
It was painful. And it's so much nicer now because the quality is not, there's no loss of quality from like capturing the image, putting it in the doc, downloading it to my machine, then uploading it back into the new repo. Like, it's literally a copy. And because of that, like, all things like aspect ratio and size, padding, all of those types of things, my authors now have the visibility in Markdown to see that previewed just from GitHub. Like, that alone has saved a tremendous amount of effort in just trying to get us to be able to produce consistent quality, which, I mean, I know that for the authors, the most important part I feel like that I owe them is that their work is represented in the most professional and polished way that I can create for them. I mean, it's their names. They're the ones that have the bylines there. And I want to make sure that they look as good as they possibly can through these types of experiences. I mean, there is a monetary compensation that goes along with this as well. But in large part, I mean, like the name recognition, the building value for your own brand. I mean, like, you know, these types of exercises do like make lines on resumes. This is important work, and I have to recognize that my authors, you know, want a return that gives them that professionalism.
But that's a good point that you bring up. So when I was coming up in this business, right, and I wanted to share things, there was no GitHub, there was no Medium, there was bulletin boards, and that shit was janky, right, at best. And today we have all of
really
these
pulling
mediums.
the old back in my day, Angel.
Yeah, I know, right? But it's true, and I'm in awe of, like, just again, right? Like, I mean, I remember pulling down, like, oh, the green, you know, green and black screen where you touched it, it gave you, like, it was radioactive. I think that those old monitors that we used to read off.
Do
of
you
in
miss the feeling of the warmth of a CRT monitor?
No. But my point is that, you know, when I was coming up in this business, you know, as a developer or technologist, you know, I wanted to share that information. And of course, the internet came on the scene, and now you have all these too many mediums, in my opinion. But, you know, you can now focus. And if you are a person, you know, who is starting out in this field, and, you know, I'm not one for name recognition personally, but it is a good way to kind of share your learnings with folks, right? And it also is another way for yourself to train yourself for joining teams, especially in today's kind of software development. It's more modern. You need to have these communication skills, right? And being able to document things accurately, concisely, you know, that helps a lot. And those are skills, even though, yeah, there may be some monetary in that specific program. I'm just saying, you know, there are people writing blogs every day. I see it all the time. And let's say a lot of them are, you know, I don't know, some of them, I can tell the folks who are writing blogs just to kind of build a rapport, right, in the community. And that's fine, no judgments. But then there's people that are writing blog posts that are like super valuable because they're taking the time to, you know, explain things in a manner that's going to, you know, kind of be comprehended by a bigger audience than someone who's just, you know, putting things down. Either way, you're contributing, right? And there's the fact that these folks are doing this and there can be some compensation is a good thing. But the other piece is I just want people to understand you're building skills that are going to be transferable, you know, later on, building skills and experience in a professional manner. So as I encourage all of our people who watch this to you know, start doing it. If you're a developer and you're not really into documentation, I would recommend you start writing some blogs, because in the future, this is going to be a big part of the job. It's only going to get worse, put it that way. I remember writing code and not having to do documentation at all. Now it's like, you can't do it.
The working on a team aspect, I think is I mean, I don't know if that's immediately seen as a real value, but you're right. Like you know, Angel, we've talked about how, you know, hiring engineers, it's like you know, with a certain technical, you know, background, my expectation is that the language part you're going to be able to pick up. So framework language, I'm not as expectant on, but like, can you inline comment on a pull request? Like, because that's not taught at school. Like that's something that you learn kind of by doing it. And so like being able to, you know, hand off something through a pull request, add an approver, go through a templated, you know, pull request, you know, template, and be able to fill that out accurately, being able to like follow up on all of those things. Like that's how it's done at work. And like, those are things that like are incredibly valuable. And those are the things that like, I think a lot of organizations don't want to have to spin you up on. They would much rather spin you up on the TypeScript or whatever it is that they're doing, because, you know, at a certain point, your technical acumen is proven, and like the language and framework becomes a little less important than it is your ability to like, you know, operate on a team. And so, you know, another benefit of, you know, moving the program over to GitHub is that, you know, we have this opportunity to, you know, do that in a way that's like, you know, it's a repo that hosts blog posts. It's not like some super technical repo that has like a really intricate project in it. And so it's a little easier to like, you know, stay in the lines and like, you know, try something, you know, and you know, it's a program that you're volunteering for up until the point in which you know, hand over content. And so like, you know, I like things to be done a certain way, but like I certainly have no authority. No one in the program works for me. And so
I think like on your end, Ron, like setting clear expectations is really helpful to writers. Like, so I used to, in a previous life before, well, no, after Clown, but pre-tech, I was a writer. And like that expectation setting makes a writer's job, whether it's like technical content or, you know, a romance novel, I don't know, like it's so much easier. I used to edit romance novels. That's a different fun fact.
Nice.
It's not
You're full
approved
of them today, huh?
It's not approved for YouTube Live.
Nice.
But
hey, so real quick, I need to, I forgot to mention this early on. So we have a few people on. I think you know them all, Ron, which is great. Hello,
I don't know
fellas.
Alejandro.
Okay.
hello,
So like,
Alejandro.
normally what we do here in these sessions is ask questions. So we have the audience ask some questions, and I figured there's only a few people. So if any of you have a question, instead of putting it in the Q&A, what we do is like to have a verbal conversation. So if you want to, if you're comfortable with, you know, asking your question, we're going to enable you to do that, and we will unlock your mic or unmute.
Yeah, if you raise
allow
your
you to
hand,
talk.
I think I can give you the ability.
So if anybody has a, you know, I want to take the last few minutes to kind of engage the community. And yeah, so raise your hands if you have any questions or comments. I mean, you know, just keep it clean. You know, for Ron's ears, I'm okay with. No, I'm just kidding.
I abide by a code of conduct at all times. There will be no shenanigans.
All right.
So
Sounds
Ron,
good.
I have a question in the meantime then.
Yes.
So given that like the guest writer program is a big part of obviously your work, but it's only one piece. So what does your dream look like for content at a company like this? Doesn't necessarily, I mean, obviously you work at Circle and like you have a plan specifically here, but like if you could dream really big, what would like content look like in a tech company like ours?
So content in a tech company like ours, how not to get super corporate speak.
Like I mean, I guess like how important would you like it to be? How, like, there's a community aspect. Like I obviously love these resources, but from a company aspect, right, there's a lot of balance to be done of like how much money we spend, how much we promote it, etc. Like if you could just be like, I love content, I'm going to dream the biggest dream I can for my content team, content friends.
Sure. Well, I mean, I think that there's, you know, at CircleCI, and I think at a lot of other tech tools, like being a developer tool gives me an opportunity to be on a content team that delivers value in nearly every piece of content that we create. I think if you were on a marketing team in some other spaces that weren't necessarily, I mean, not even just developer tools, but I mean, maybe even some other tech spaces, the marketing team's role looks a lot different, especially if, you know, you're marketing to consumers.
Right.
And so I feel really lucky to be in a place where I can like help people use our tool. Because I mean, at the end of the day, you know, most folks use CircleCI at work or for work. And so, you know, through that, it's like, you know, being able to help someone make their money feels really good to me. I mean, it's not just that I add value in that, like I'm introducing a tool that works, but you know, like I said before, with generalized solutions, it's like, you know, I'm trying to move you through a bottleneck that you know, should be able to help you at work in the thing that you do that, like, you know, puts food on your family's table. And I feel there's a lot of real value in that. I think that that's, I mean, I'd say that that's probably my second favorite thing. My first favorite thing is definitely, I mean, there's no possible way I would get introduced to all of these tools and technologies without the guest writer program. Like, I feel so lucky that I get a walkthrough of how to use like every modern thing.
Every time you hear a
It feels really
technology, you
good.
must be like, that sounds familiar.
Yeah, right. Or I wonder if I get a t-shirt.
Yeah, so I can add to some of that. Like,
Sure.
I work for a company, like I said, we're focused primarily on developers, so we're very niche, right? And you know, as a developer relations person, advocate, it's very important for me, at least in my role, to be able to talk to many different disciplines and technology stacks, right? And like I said earlier, you know, everybody has to start somewhere, because I don't know everything about everything, right? I mean, I wish I did. I used to when I was like 22, right? I knew everything.
Did you really, or did you think you did?
Oh no, I was on point. I mean, I was launching rockets back then, right?
So you better.
But no, that you know, it's really hard to, again, you know, just jump into things, and especially if it's like newer technologies like we were talking about earlier, and there's not a lot of resources. I actually love those because I get an opportunity to kind of, you know, just get my hands dirty with it, go hands on and figure things out, and then be able to publish my learnings, right, with some confidence, and even, you know, folks can even like you know, comment on it and tell me, oh, you're full of shit, or man, this really helped me. In general, you know, that I get the really helped me remarks, but then there's sometimes they're like, oh, you're full of shit, as you know, some developers get, you know, they have that great attitude, right, towards towards people when they're noobs and they're totally wrong, right? That I love that awesome attitude. I'm just kidding.
It's like interesting, Ron, because I got my start basically as a guest writer for a lot of different businesses. And like, it was my only job. When I graduated college with a literature degree, and then I was like, reading is not a job, I guess. So I really relied on people reaching out. I mean, at the time I was doing like, I don't even remember what they're called now, but they were like auction boards, you know, and basically like people would hire like the cheapest option. They'll be like, you will do this for $3. You hired.
I think that was like Craigslist.
It was before Craigslist. I think it was called like
hey, bulletin boards. I told you.
It was post BBS, pre Craigslist. It was like somewhere around the romance novels or the clown phase, but like
nice. Fabio.
So you're absolutely right, because like those programs, they helped me become a better writer. They helped me learn to work with other people, and they helped me figure out like, you know, kind of like what I wanted to do. And like I got to learn about so many different areas, even as a writer, that I started to understand, like, you know, tech I'd never seen before, or even just like marketing for companies, press releases. Like, I just got to learn as a writer, and I think it was really important into like making me who I am. So in that regard, you're also like, of course, I'm so glad that these writers don't have to auction, and everyone should get paid fairly for their work. So I'm really glad that's taken care of from the start. But they're also like, hopefully feeling like they're being improved by the process too.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, when you think about it, it's like there are folks in the group that are able to write content that does, like, you know, people are taking code, like cutting and pasting their code and putting it into enterprise level software. You know, I mean, I know that this has happened in my own, you know, published code snippets, that that exists in and like these enterprises aren't ever going to hire me to be a software engineer. Yet my code, my lines of code are in their code bases for big projects. And that feels really good to me. I'm proud of that.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, we got a question.
Stanley, I'm going to allow you to talk You're unmuted. Hi, Stanley.
Unmute yourself, Stanley.
Can you
Yep.
hear me?
Yep.
Yes, sir.
Awesome. Yeah, so it's been awesome listening to all of you. And I like the specific bit that was mentioned about TDD being across so many, being used by so many engineers. So it makes the CircleCI Guest Writers Program have a low barrier of entry because you're welcoming basically anyone. I'm curious what your advice could be for people who are not necessarily in TDD and just want to get advice towards what they can do concerning their content, aside from CircleCI Guest Writers Program, just generally what their focus should be when they're writing technical content. You've mentioned a number of things, but on the big scale of career-wise or just getting their name out there or things like this. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. And I mean, there's a lot of questions in that question, which is fine. I think that one of the biggest ways to become a part of things is, and I try to do this with a lot of the content that we work through the program is I, rewrite a lot of the titles. And the titles, what that has to do with is discoverability, which I mentioned early on. If we don't do a lot of promotion of content, and so Google search is the only way that our content becomes discoverable. So I mean, that's open to really anyone. I mean, if you wanted to go to any of the other big tech companies that have guest writing programs, all you would need to do is query some of the words in their space and see what folks are searching and what stuff gets surfaced through that, and then try to optimize on being able to write to the audience that is asking questions. I think that the content that solves a problem is the best content, because that is the way that you're going to get people to discover your solution without there being any other type of promotion. And being able to do that is going to be valuable, whether you're writing for CircleCI, whether you're writing for any of the other companies out there that have those programs. And I think that also gives you an like thinking in terms of with this technology, what are the bottlenecks? I think is a great way to start thinking of new technology, because everything is an out-of-the-box solution for a sandbox app that doesn't do anything. But to make it do something, it takes a little bit more effort. And so finding the bottlenecks and thinking of working through the bottlenecks is going to make you a better engineer, I think. And it also will help you identify where there are ripe opportunities for creating new content.
So I'm going to give you my thoughts on this.
Sure.
And that was Stanley, yeah?
Stanley, yeah.
So, I write a lot of this content and I've been doing it for a very long time. And one of the things that really kind of, I do use, or I ask myself every freaking time I write content is, or when I'm reading, stuff or I'm thinking about things, just imagine yourself in the past in your past, when you read something that was utter garbage, right? You were dumber for having read it, and don't write like that. That's seriously.
There are plenty of bad examples.
Yeah. So that's my point, is take all those bad examples and don't do, what they did. Find that, think about, the way I do it is I think about how could I have made that content better, right? And the comment I made about make you dumber is just a joke, but at the end of the day, there are bits of data or content that just really, you want to get those 2-3 minutes back or whatever it is you spent. But those are great too, because again, that keeps me kind of motivated not to, produce things like that. Like I said, Ron is the gatekeeper for me, even at CircleCI. So Stanley, I know, your pain, but it's a good pain, right? At the end of the day. And the other piece of advice I wanted to give you, Stanley, is all throughout my career, when I've been writing, there's always been someone there to, kind of gate me or keep me honest, in a sense, right? whether it's like, hey man, this is total trash, or, you know, and that's okay because we're not all perfect. So have a person or someone you trust and respect to give you, right, the truth and not just some hype, because I've worked
That's what
with
Ron
folks
is
that
here
were like,
for. Ron is here for facts.
Here for the truth.
I'm
no, but
here
like,
for the hype. Ron is
are-
awesome.
I've worked with content managers before that are like, look, I don't care what it is. I got to fit, you know, here's a number. I got to get so many posts in, and that's not going to do anyone any good, right? Especially yourself. So number one, learn how to kind of be critical of yourself and your content and the stuff you create, which I think is number one, right? Being able to be like, wow, this is total trash, and be okay with that, right? Like, and make it better, you know. Also self-edit. Like Ron is always slicing my stuff up, which I definitely need because I know this about myself. And then the other piece is, right, just, you know, have relationships and form relationships with people who you respect and can, you know, build that like trust, right? Build a rapport that can help you, you know, kind of ground you, keep you grounded, right? Because we can all start believing our own hype at some point. Except for
And
me.
you should a little. That's called self-confidence. Okay.
No, for sure. But I mean, like, you know, you can get like overly
Yeah,
hyped.
I know.
Well, even with very technical content, all of it is the creative output of the authors, and so like it does take a little bit more effort to be critical of someone's creativity.
Absolutely.
Even when it's a tutorial, they are creative, and so making sure that you can be critical and, you know, receive criticism for your work, I think is also highly important.
The best advice I ever got from an editor was, I won't always be nice, but I will always be kind.
Good.
Yeah.
Which was good. What time are we supposed to finish? I'm sorry.
We have a hand raised, so I want to tackle that one, then we're done. Yeah.
And we're
Okay.
done.
How do you say that name? Fikio? I think so. Give him the floor.
I am trying.
You got it. Unmute yourself, Fikio.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
So, it's been great listening to you guys. I'm so excited seeing Ron speak for the first time. We've always been.
Yeah.
Hi, Ron. Good to have you back. Welcome from your break.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mine is more of a compliment, because one of the things I really enjoyed in the program is that the way you can quickly pitch ideas and it's reviewed, it's approved, and you can even be working on multiple ideas at the same time. I was on a guest writer program for some other company, and sometimes it can take you 2 months to just get your idea approved, and you can only work on one single idea at a time. I know a lot of in fact, there was a particular time I was on an article for almost a year. It was really frustrating. So, and I was very passionate about putting content out, just being able to share my knowledge and all that. So coming to CircleCI, it was just amazing. Like I submit my article just in a matter of minutes. Once one is online, I already get a notification that my article has been moved from one board. It's just very exciting, which has really motivated me to put in more. And also, I will say my CI/CD skills have really improved through the program. I'm a team lead in my firm, so because I write for CircleCI, I got to enforce CI/CD in my firm, automated test-driven development, also, which was something that we just feel, you know what, the code is working. Let's just overlook that. But being a writer for CircleCI and getting to work with this very amazing tool that makes it easy, I was able to enforce that in my firm. So kudos, thanks, Ron. You're doing amazing.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
That feels great. I know. That's like, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to work the rest of the day.
But that's the point, though, right? That's the point I was trying to make earlier, was like, you're going to gain so many benefits, you know, from just go ahead and put yourself out there. You know, maybe the stuff you're writing is not right. But at the end of the day, who cares? There's tons of trolls out there to help you fix it, right? Like,
We've got one
leverage
more
it.
hand raised. Do you have
All
time?
right.
One
Yeah,
more?
yeah, yeah.
Stanley
Sure.
it did take us 12 months to get Stanley's first post published. So Fikio, that's not, it's common.
Yeah, but Stanley paved the way, right, for
That's right.
everybody else. So
Yeah.
Fikio,
Stanley's pain
Stanley a
is everyone
beer.
else's.
Yeah, you owe him a beer or a beverage of choice. Whatever.
All right.
So
I'm gonna go for this last question.
All right,
Yes.
Oluyemi. I also have never spoke to Oluyemi yet either. We do all of our chat through Slack. So very
Man,
nice
Ron,
to.
you stacked this with all your buddies. That's nice.
Hi, hello. Can you all hear me?
I
Yes.
can,
Yes.
yes.
All right, so it's good to listen to you guys. I'm Ron, so good to see you speak.
Yeah,
And
thank you.
I'm so excited. Yeah, so we've been having a whole lot of conversation, just like Fikayo mentioned earlier. It's been through Slack. So quickly, I think I've actually gained a whole lot of information just listening to you guys. You all have experience with content and, writing and all of that, which I was actually going to ask a question. So I have two things to say. One of it is more like a comment, and really it's because for this guest writer program, this gives an opportunity for us as an author to be able to get exposed to a whole lot of technologies, and that puts you in a position where you can then play around with different technologies. And the bigger picture is you also acquire more skills, and in that way you can reach out and share your knowledge. Then every other developer can learn from it. I think Ron actually mentioned this too earlier, where you just get familiar with different kind of frameworks, right? New shiny frameworks, and most people actually like to try, because the benefit of new frameworks is they kind of take a look at the old ones and then come up with new way of doing things much more better. So every developers, every company just want to jump on it and start making use of it. And then if you have actually been going through, developing the right way, which means you have to do continuous integration and all of that, writing tests. If you're doing that, you want to know that, okay, if I'm using Next.js today, how will I be able to do continuous integration with this, right? And then once you just come to CircleCI, for example, and then you have content that can actually guide you through step by step to be able to make this happen. It's good, and then you just feel so excited that you're able to get things done. And then my second comment is more like a question, right? And since you all actually have, the experience writing content, right? And for most part, we are also developers too as well, right? Developers who love to write. So that means you actually made a whole lot of mistakes at work, right? And then you fix things, and then you share knowledge how you make it work. And then you also want to, to be realistic, you want to make deployment, and then you have the tools that can do it very better, right? Like CircleCI, some of the ops that we have that can make deployment so easy, and writing continuous integration so as well, right? So while doing that, there's a limit to the experience that you can have with some of these tools yourself, right? If you get it work and it's working fine today, that means tomorrow you might not necessarily need to go back to it. Now, how do you target the larger audience? Meaning, how do you get to know more about problems of other developers, right? So that you can then channel your content towards solving their problem, right? And then, I can actually go ahead and start searching for tools here and there, and then think about what could actually be an issue with this, what can I write about, right? But now thinking, wider than that, what are ways in which you can actually get to know more about developers' problem? I know for developer advocates, you actually listen to them more, right? And then they share some of their problems with you, meaning you can then tailor your content to that direction. So in summary, my question is, how do you actually get to know more about your problems so that you can write content to address that?
Sure. I think that, and you in particular, Fikio as well, have taken advantage of, there's a lot of space for us to really get the just foothold, like very introductory content for all of the frameworks. I mean, I've talked with Stanley as well, but it's like, you've got frameworks, you've got testing suites, and you've got deployment scenarios. And like, if there's 10 of each of them, that's, that matrix makes 1,000 blog posts. And like, we're not close to getting complete coverage for all of those, but I would take any framework in a deployment scenario, any framework and a testing suite. I would take that all day for any type of, anything that comes up. And there's still a lot of room to have content developed for that, especially because new frameworks come online all the time, and testing suites changed dramatically over over time, just to try to address different solutions for different enterprises. But once you get out of the, like, how do I deploy a basic deploy? How do I, automate some tests to find the problems that people suffer at work? It is not, Stack Overflow works just the same way when you're at work as it does when you're doing hobby stuff over the weekend. And that is the place where people are asking how to solve bottlenecks that they're actually experiencing at work. And I would say Stack Overflow over going to specific tools, forums, because that's also the place where you can find problems that people actually are suffering from at work. But there you don't get as generalized problems. And I think that the best content solves problems in a general way. Even if you do need to use a tool as an example, the high level information that you're transferring does solve that problem. And I think that that's probably the best place to find what I would say are advanced content. And the three of you in the program know that there's, we have beginner content, we have intermediate content, and advanced. And the way that I think about that is beginner content is just automating testing. Anything that looks like automating your tests, I would say is at the very beginner level. Intermediate is deploy. There's nothing easy about deploy. Even if you use an orb to deploy to Heroku, it is not a trivial thing to deploy your application. And you're not just doing that because you're in a college class. And then advanced content, I say, is solving problems that people experience at work. The post we did not too long ago where it's the dual booting Rails to do a migration. Those are incredibly sophisticated problems to solve. And so the only way that you would be able to discover that people have a hard time migrating their Rails projects and using a continuous integration tool to maintain both versions of Rails simultaneously while you do the migration is to find that problem on Stack Overflow. And you can definitely, I would say that that's probably the best way to surface problems that are going to be generalizable, and that there are enough people, because they'll upvote the problems that are popular, if you will. And oftentimes, there's still space, there's lots of people trying to optimize on Stack Overflow, but there's also lots of space there to solve problems in a unique way and deliver value to the community that no one else has done yet.
That's really good advice, Ron.
There's also, so I agree 100%, but I would also advise you to, be realistic with your learnings as well, right? So I see this all the time where, people are writing blogs and they're pretty credible, right? Because they have a full understanding. And yes, we're going to all start somewhere. We're going to grow our knowledge and we become, I don't want to say experts, but more familiar with the technology. And then our credibility goes up, right? So if you're just hunting down problems just to write content to kind of try to build some sort of name, brand, or recognition, again, no judgments, that's fine. But you got to remember, are you credible? And I think that's what kind of separates someone who's, contributing useful content versus someone who's, all right, let me throw a few buzzwords in, get my name out there, and those posts, Ron, that you will never publish. And that's what I mean. So again, yes, you can hunt down, use these resources like Stack Overflow or any kind of social code type platforms to hunt down problems. But I would recommend that you focus in on the things that number one is that you're passionate about, right? Because that shit just bleeds right through. You could see it in the post, right? If someone's passionate about something, you from the first paragraph, you can see it. Whereas I've read plenty of posts, like I said, of folks that are just, trying to just, and game the system to kind of, get themselves out there, which is, again, no problem. But I don't want to be reading
the hustle.
that stuff.
Respect
Right.
the hustle.
No one's ever gonna. Right. This is all your world, right? But at the end of the day, remember that I think passion counts for a ton of credibility, or at least helping you gain credibility, because that's really, really, really important to be able to give advice, and the advice is actually from a place of experience and not a place of, well, in theory, you know, I read this and that, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, so I think we are definitely over time.
Yeah, let's go to closing remarks. Ron, do you have any burning knowledge to share?
No, I just would like to thank the rest of the folks that joined us live. Say hello to all of the folks that watch us recorded, and thank them for getting to this part in the thing. And I really do appreciate the opportunity to, you know, help create some space where folks can get some recognition for the work that they do. I feel really proud to see, you know, Fikio on the new stack, and like, you know, just getting all of these things, and like it does feel like a real reward to see folks. You know, I mean, Fikio said he brought continuous integration to his firm, which is huge. Like I didn't know that story. I feel like that's a really big reward. And so I wanted to just thank everyone, you two, Katie and Angel, for saying such kind words and for giving me the opportunity to talk a little bit more about what I do. I know that other folks in the guest writer program who weren't able to make it today would be glad to review this content, because I think we did do a good job of just kind of encapsulating what our philosophy is, what we're looking for, what things are successful, and how we do things, and kind of how it's changed over time. So thanks, everyone.
Yeah, expect that kickback tomorrow, yeah?
No.
Nah.
Angel, closing thoughts?
Yeah. So, yeah, just thanks, Ron, for showing up and having this conversation candidly with me and everybody watching, and Katie as well. Again, welcome to the team. And
yeah, I mean, get used to it. This is gonna be here.
and by the way, your is that sequence you're wearing? That did not go unnoticed.
Thank you.
You like kept my attention though. I'm like,
this is it. It's like,
yeah. when Ron was like making me doze off, I was like, whoa, something just sparkled. And
how do you think I got to where I am today? Shiny.
Hey, you know, I have a talk called the shiny object syndrome, but
it's about me, I assume.
No, that. All right. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Bye.